Welcome, everyone. My name is Haley Buckner, and I'm the Professional Relations Manager for Elevate Oral Care. Thank you for joining us this evening. Before we start, I'd like to cover just a few housekeeping items. For those of you remaining online past 50 minutes, your CE certificate will be emailed within hours of the completion of this talk, so be sure to check your spam folder if you don't see it right away. You're all muted, so no need to worry about any background noise. And we will have time at the end for questions, and you can submit questions on your webinar dashboard as they will be tracked throughout the talk. We have hosted an extensive series of free live CE webinars on many different prevention topics. Each of these webinars were recorded and are available for free self-instruction CE at the web address that you see on the screen, elevateoralcare.com/elevatingcare. Be sure to bookmark this page and return often to see what's new in free CE. And also, if you have a topic that you would like to see covered, feel free to suggest it by sending an email to info@elevateoralcare.com or by completing the webinar survey that will be sent after the completion of the talk this evening. For tonight's talk, we are honored to have registered dental hygienist Carrie Carter-Shirellis, who is also a consultant, coach, speaker, and author. Carrie knows firsthand how working in a hostile work environment can contribute to the feeling of burnout, negatively affecting one's overall health and confidence. She authored the book, The Ultimate Guide for Dental Hygienist Burnout, to serve as a guide to help dental hygienists in all stages of their career. She uses her platform as CEO and founder of KMC Strategic Solutions to help improve the work culture in teams and organizations, as well as to coach individuals. She firmly believes that it is only when we have made positive changes from within ourselves that we can influence change within others. You can contact her at shirellissmiles@gmail.com or bit.ly/burnoutdentalhygienist. Carrie, take it away.
Hi, everyone. I'm so happy to be able to talk with you guys today. I'm excited to be here, and I look forward to meeting you all at a later date. I know some people messaged me and they said that they plan on seeing me at a later date somewhere. I, however, could not wait to give this topic because so many of you guys have messaged me. So many people are dealing with burnout at this time. And daily people come to me concerning their concerns about the current situation that they're dealing with. And we try to set up a plan for them to recover. And I know that the burnout is a big topic because it's really crippling our industry, and we have to really act now to really get a hold of it. So I speak about burnout because it's my passion, because I survived it. And unfortunately, throughout my career, I've had different experiences that led me to suffer from burnout and workplace PTSD. And some of the offices that I've worked in weren't the best place for me to grow. Sometimes I saw way too many patients. I felt bullied. I didn't feel like I had a voice. I felt powerless. And ultimately, I kind of ended up being traumatized. And so my goal is to help all professionals, dentistry and above, so that we really don't experience this. We want to prevent it from happening to the future generations, as well as to help manage it and recover if it's happening to us now. So I first graduated from dental hygiene school in 2005, and I was so excited to practice and eager to help my patients. But I recognized that I really didn't know what I kind of know now at the time. And it's funny that I've seen on a lot of different Facebook forums, my own in fact, that people call it hygiene secrets. So different things that we didn't know when we first started out that we wish we knew. And I feel that school really helped to prepare me to scale teeth and take x-rays and educate patients on their overall health. But I really wasn't prepared to face many of the issues that we are facing today in this day and age, or what I faced during my clinical career. I really knew I wanted a job, but I didn't understand that all that I needed from that job, other than needing a paycheck. And I didn't really understand the importance of making sure a job aligned with my principles as a hygienist, what I had learned in school. I didn't know that it was going to be a challenge at times in the industry to find that job. In fact, we call it in the industry a unicorn office, like a mystical being that many are privileged to not really see, we hear about, but we don't really witness ourselves. And we've heard stories, but we don't even believe they exist if we haven't been able to find it for ourselves. So this is baby Carrie, 2005, who graduated from Palm Beach State Community College, now Palm Beach State College. And when you think about burnout, what do you hear? What do you think? I have this picture here of a car because a lot of times people think about first before the pandemic happened. Many people just thought about maybe cars, or if you were to go on Instagram and type burnout, sometimes you're going to see pictures of maybe people doing burnout spins and car races and things like that, kind of like Fast and Furious. But now that the pandemic has happened, there's an onslaught of articles about burnout. There's constant things on the news concerning this topic, and I get sent stuff daily because it's such a big thing that's occurring. I'm a movie buff and a visual learner, so my brain relates at times to movies or TV shows. So when I personally hear the word burnout, even though I speak about it, my mind goes to Fast and Furious movies. And throughout those outrageous movies that we say we're not going to watch, and then they make another one and we watch them, the driver has to learn to maneuver through different courses or obstacles to avoid disasters. And throughout this course, we have to learn different ways that we can maneuver through our profession and to really work on our mindset so that we can address, manage, and recover from burnout. So these are just some of the articles that I picked out at the time that talks about burnout that's going across all different industries. And we can see that even today, I read something about dentists and doctors' offices that are closing across the borderline across Canada. So what is burnout? According to the World Health Organization, it's a syndrome, a result of chronic workplace stress that has not been successfully managed. So it's a state of emotional, mental, physical exhaustion caused by excessive and prolonged stress in the workplace. And we're really just focusing on the workplace burnout. There are so many different kinds. There's burnout by volume. Maybe you're booked back to back seeing patients, or you're constantly busy. You feel like you have no time for yourself. You're just completely exhausted and there's no end in sight. You're burnout by boredom. I've had that too. So you're not being challenged. You're just bored. You're not, you need a change. You're not satisfied with what's going on with your life or your career. So I've actually worked at places that I felt like didn't challenge me or didn't allow me to really do all the things that I could as a hygienist. There's burnout by socialization. And so as dental professionals, a lot of times we are people pleasers. And we give of ourselves, but we don't often exercise different boundaries or learn how to say no. And so often that attracts more work to us, or more people are attracted to knowing that we're not going to say no. And then we feel drained and resentful because of being people pleasers. So what does it feel like? Well, it's the definition of burnout deals with stress that hasn't been managed well. And if you think about it, who's not stressed? If we're not stressed, we wouldn't be probably taking this course or interested in it, or we wouldn't see other professionals that we think benefit from this course. But daily we hear bad news about natural disasters, job losses, government issues, social issues, the pandemic. All these things affect us. I mean, I know in the last couple of weeks, the news has definitely affected me, where I go where I'm not watching it to I'm watching it to I'm not watching it to I get so upset about what's on the news. And that's just the news. That's not workplace. But we are affected by all these different things, even if it's subconscious. And then add to that our own personal things that we have to deal with, our family issues, maybe we're dealing with, and then you just wrap that around, put a bow on it, and think about work. So all these things can really be a perfect algebraic equation for burnout and for causing the different things that we feel. So different signs that we have is that it can really contribute to different health conditions. We can feel chronically tired. We may feel tired or being tired all the time. We feel fatigue. We have muscle pain, insomnia. We deal with anxiety, depression. I know that one job that I worked at, the doctor, this was my first full-time job, so I was green. The doctor basically told me in order to keep my job, I needed to start working overtime. And I felt like I didn't have a voice. I was new. I didn't know that, hey, I can choose another job or anything. So I just started working that job, and I started cleaning teeth in my sleep because I didn't feel like I was getting enough rest. I'd wake up mentally tired as though I'd worked the night shift. And so at another job, I was bullied, and I would just lay in bed looking at the ceiling, replaying the day's events about what I should have said to my coworkers. And so these are some of the signs that we may experience when we have burnout. We may also deal with isolation. So we don't want to be around anyone. We want to socialize with anyone. Become critical of ourselves. Maybe we refuse compliments from people. we kind of just check out, or we start to medicate ourselves. So either medicate ourselves with food or alcohol or social media. You know, who's just scrolling? First thing in the morning, you're scrolling. Throughout the day, you're scrolling. And it can almost be like using different things for therapy, just like retail therapy. But often we cannot actually be addressing the problem. We're just covering it up with a Band-Aid. And it's important to know these different signs of burnout, because when we learn the signs and symptoms, then we're able to do all the different things to take care of ourselves. We can learn how different things can trigger to our burnout or can contribute to health problems. We can really be able to spot the problems in others as well as ourselves. And then really the further you find yourselves down the different stages of burnout, the more difficult it is to come out of. So like I said, I'm a movie buff, so I'm going to mention movies throughout my presentation. And so with this presentation right here, we're going to talk about Inception. So the further Leonardo got down the spiral of that dream state, the harder it was for him to come out of the fact, to know if he was okay or not. And if we allow burnout to progress, it can really take years, if not decades, to recover from it. It's something that we have to constantly work at to get rid of. So physical illness that can happen is we can feel like we have headaches, back pain, sleep difficulties, all these musculoskeletal disorders. We know that in dentistry that is a thing, but it really can become chronic gastrointestinal issues where we are constantly going to the doctor trying to figure out what the problem is. Another thing is physiologically. So like I said earlier, we may have some insomnia, we have depressive states, we may get hospitalized for mental health issues and even suicidal thoughts. And that's a big thing in our industry because of the problems that are happening. With the individual, it's definitely a problem because at times we may not even know what to call it. We may just feel like burnout is that we don't like our jobs, we're unhappy with how things are going on. Maybe we're not showing up to work on time or early. I know that myself, that when I was experiencing it, I actually started showing up just in time for the morning huddle. I really began to resent my coworkers who I knew were actively gossiping about me. I started to resent the dentists who were kind of siding with the coworkers I felt were bullying me. And I started to really get acne all over my neck and my face. Not the normal acne, but all over. I wasn't sleeping well and I felt helpless. So these are some of the different things that people have experienced. Another thing is it just doesn't stay with us or just affect us at work. It can affect our personal lives. So when we leave work, we usually don't just shut off work. We have that part of ourselves that when we go home, we may need to vent to our spouse or to our friends or our loved ones and talk about the day that we've had, but we're not necessarily dealing with the problem, we're just venting. And over time, it can affect our relationships, ending in breakups or divorce, or people just feel like we're complaining all the time and what is going on with us. Another big thing with the workplace is that it can be detrimental to patient care. So a number of professionals can start to feel cynical, and they're not necessarily treating the patient with the grace that initially we may have when we first started out in the profession. There can be a shortage of professionals, which we see definitely going on. It costs more for offices to hire because they have to go through more background checks, different personality tests, and then different training programs. And then dental professionals really suffer from burnout at an alarming rate. We can really deal with exhaustion. Often when dental professionals go to their homes, they're just emotionally exhausted. So think about if you ever just wanted to check out after work that day and it was just taking a toll on you, and think about why. All day long, we're dealing with different patient personalities. They may tell us they don't like us, they hate dentistry, they are upset about their different diagnoses, needing restorative treatment, needing periodontal treatment. They don't want to take x-rays, they don't want to be taken back, they're mad because maybe the insurance isn't covering their treatment, or now they have a big bill. So there's definite things that we deal with all day long. And unfortunately, sometimes people in the back were upset at the front desk because maybe they put something in your schedule without asking you. and you just really want to go home and crash. You're exhausted, knowing that tomorrow's going to be the same exact thing. It's going to be like Groundhog Day all over again. So over time, a lot of professionals, they have a diminished sense of personal accomplishment. They may no longer feel like they have that passion when we first got out of school, like you can really take over the world. I know when I got out of school, I just knew I was going to cure periodontal disease and gingivitis and get my patients to do all that OHI. And over time, year after year, year after year, you stop caring as much about the patient's teeth. You want them to take ownership of what's going on because you feel like you've done as much as you can. And maybe perhaps you don't feel as though you can accomplish anything, and you may feel like, why bother? Because no one's improving, no one flosses, no one listens, and no one cares. And that's really the cynicism that starts to happen a lot of times with different professionals. So if you think about what all we do in a day, we can see why we're exhausted. As a hygienist, I know that I have to take vitals, oral cancer screening, do the head and neck exam, do perioral charting, x-rays, intraoral scanner, intraoral camera pictures, preventative therapeutic treatments, the doctor exam, sterilize my instruments, do my notes, clean my room, take impressions. It's just an exhausting list. And unfortunately, a lot of times is less and less time that the professional has for that. And dentists have a lot to do as well. So they have to do their procedures, and then they have to get up and they have to check the different patients of the hygienist. They have to make sure everything is staying on budget so they can pay for the whole office. Everyone wants to get paid. And then you have assistants. I've been an assistant as well. And so assistants do everything for the office as well. And they can sometimes feel like they're unvalued or unappreciated as well. So everyone is working on that clock, and everyone is exhausted, and at times everyone is a little frazzled. So we all have to really think about all we do in a day and all that our team members do to really appreciate why we're exhausted, to know what the root of the problem is. I know that sometimes we can get irritated with one another. We can get irritated with having to explain the different procedures to patients who don't have the maybe dental IQ, or they can be mad because of the procedures that they need. It's one thing after another. And so that's definitely a lot that we have to do. And there's no wonder that we feel exhausted, but we have to also think about when we get home and it hits us, what are we still thinking about? I know at times I will get home and I think I'm chilled out. I'm not thinking about the day anymore. And I remember I forgot to do someone's note in a chart. So we're constantly still thinking about our job at days. Pandemic burnout is a big thing. And so with this, we have to think about the great resignation. So many people have been leaving their jobs, and mainly it's a lot of different reasons. So I'm on a lot of different forums, and just depending on which forum you're on is the different reasons people are leaving their jobs or not helping to support what's going on with patients needing us. And at times, it's really been because of everything that we've dealt with for years that we're now just starting to process. But when the pandemic first happened and then we closed and then we came back, a lot of people really thought about what was going on. Some people left because they were around retirement age, or there's childcare issues. There's a lot of patient anxiety, negativity, ill-mannered behavior that's going on. We've seen, unfortunately, where some patients are actually coming into the office and being violent and committing atrocities. So we also have that fear of a patient possibly coming into the office and doing something. The offices are short-staffed due to team members leaving. So there's a lot that people are going through. We have also in dentistry, unfortunately, there's a lot of depression. Unfortunately, it's a high stress career with high rates of depression, anxiety, and addiction. And it's everyone. It's not just hygienists or dentists who are feeling burnt out. The whole industry, everyone is feeling burnt out. That's why you see so many different summits on burnout for dentistry and panels, and more people are becoming consultants for that, because everyone is definitely feeling that. Even office managers, front desk employees, dental assistants, technicians. It's not just dentists and dental hygienists who are feeling this. And so on forums all over the internet, dental professionals, they're talking about this burnout. Dentists are talking about low reimbursement and having to pay increased wages and having to pay increased PPE costs. Hygienists are talking about the overwhelming schedules, unrealistic expectations of their employers, and employees are often talking about just not feeling valued in the industry. And what I feel is needed is an open dialogue. So among all professionals, we have to learn from one another and look at things from all the different angles in order to really put those pieces back together of what's unraveling in our industry. And we see, unfortunately, that at times there's a high rate of suicide, mental illness in the dental professions, and people are leaving in droves. All the professionals are leaving. So at times we have to really think about how we treat one another. I sometimes struggle with this when I see in different forums when people are basically bashing one another. So we don't want to do that to each other. We want to be supportive. We have to mend fences and stop attacking one another. So the front office sometimes is against the back office, and the dentist is against the hygienist, and the hygienist is against the dentist, and the hygienist is against the assistant, and the office manager. Everyone's just fighting. And so we have to stop forming these different alliances like we're on Survivor, because it's not really helping us out at all. And in fact, we're just breaking down the industry even more. Unfortunately, as dental professionals, we don't often see each other as being sad, isolated, withdrawn, angry, frustrated, or suicidal. We just go about doing our jobs. And at times, many of us hide those feelings that we wear behind masks. So we have literal masks that we have to wear to be safe for ourselves and our patients, but we may also be wearing masks figuratively where we're hiding our feelings. And then we get upset. We go cry in our cars, or we go vent to our family, or we just don't feel strong. So we can be struggling with various complex emotions we may be afraid to reveal to others, but our colleagues are often feeling the same way. They often are hiding their feelings as well, and they don't know how we will take it if we talk to them about our feelings, or if they talk to us about their feelings. So we might deal daily with indirect put downs or belittling at times at the office, or we might feel excluded or deal with microaggressions and sometimes dismissive comments. And so dealing with all of these things coupled with the patient anxiety at times can be a lot for us to deal with daily. So it's cliche, but we want to make sure that we put our oxygen mask on first. So often we take care of our patients' needs before we take care of our own needs. Often we're running around, we may not take the breaks that we need to take. People aren't going to the bathroom and everything, and they're just making sure that the patient gets taken care of. We don't want the patient to be brought back late, but we are almost exhausted and out of breath because we haven't taken 1 minute for ourselves. So we have to remember to put that oxygen mask on first, and to recognize that we can't take care of our patients if we can't take care of ourselves. And we should not wear it as a badge of honor that we don't taking care of our own personal needs. That's not what our patients who really care about us want us to do. They want us to take care of ourselves as well. And there's a variety of reasons why we may have excuses of why we're neglecting ourselves. But at the same time, if we're doing that, we're slowly extinguishing our own life source. We're killing our own oxygen, basically, because we're running on empty. So the American Dental Association, they have recognized that there's a big shortage going on. And I don't know if you feel it in your offices, but right now there's been so many different offices that have reached out to me, or you see it online, because there's a big shortage. And unfortunately, our patients aren't getting the access to the care that they truly need right now. I'm sure you felt it, that this understaffed that's going on everywhere. We're not getting the proper assistance anywhere with the products that we need. And many have been talking about these shortages in our profession. One solution really is for employers to actively try to prevent hostile work environments. So unfortunately, a lot of offices may have in place different things that are allowing them to have these hostile work environments. And when patients are unhappy and staff is unhappy, then that can really trickle down to how we take care of our patients. And if we aren't our best selves for our patients because we're dealing with bullying that maybe we haven't reported, and our employers aren't stopping any type of hostile work environments, then that's going to trickle down to our patients, and they see these things as well. So as professionals, we may feel burnt out because we may feel like we don't have control. I know a lot of hygienists feel that they don't have control of their profession due to regulations in different states. There's different things that we would love to do, but we aren't allowed to do. Sometimes hygienists reach out to me because they feel stuck or they would like to do more non-clinical careers, and dentists feel stuck as well. So they feel stuck in that they have all these financial payments to pay back because of loans and things. And then they may feel that they're not appreciated as well for what they may do for the office, or there's unrealistic expectations put upon them. And so when that happens, we can all become cynical. We can all get depressed, and we can all feel like, what is worth it? Nothing's really worth it because of what's going on with our jobs. And right now, with that shortage, many aren't returning because they feel like they need to act in self-preservation. And it's most important for them at this time to really take care of them and to focus on their mental health. And this has left the industry with huge shortages that are affecting, like I said, our patients' ability to care. But these are some of the things that workers are requesting. They really want flexible schedules. So they want more protection with PPE, and they're demanding monetary increases. And so this is a hot topic in the community because dentists sometimes feel like, they don't have any more left to give because they're getting a squeeze from the insurance. But at the same time, other providers may feel like they are doing all the things. And so if they are doing all the things, that they need help as well. Or unfortunately, some of the offices, to accommodate patients, they are open long hours. So they may open at 7 and close at 7 or 8. And so trying to fill those schedules with one hygienist or a provider or assistants can be very difficult because we're humans and we have families and we want to spend time with them. Like I said, we are all on Facebook, and our colleagues are definitely mentioning regularly that they're burnt out. They're telling stories about how they're disappointed about how their career has taken its path, how their current work environment is. And there's just a list of different reasons that some individuals are talking about this. And some feel that they can relate to one another, and so they discuss in detail the different things that are going on with them. And so there's a list of things that our colleagues feel why they're burnt out. In my particular Facebook group, this is what people have told me, that there's wear and tear on their body. They're tired of the office politics, the drama. They see 15 patients a day. Someone told me they saw 21 patients a day, and that was not in a pedal office. They don't like that there's no structure. The job is just monotonous and boring, repetitive. It's often a change of ownership. So sometimes when someone new comes in, they change everything that someone liked about their job. Back when we didn't have a lot of PPE, people were in PPE for all 8 hours and didn't have lunch. Or there's production demands, poor time management, no benefits. That's a big thing. Lack of women empowerment within the workplace, just difficulty finding support. People aren't eating their lunch, they're not being able to use the bathroom, they're overbooked. So it just goes on and on. All of these different things that people are talking about, and that's one of the reasons people are leaving dentistry, because of these things. And so why are we still here? So don't blame a clown for acting like a clown. Ask yourself why you keep going to the circus. So a lot of times we stay in these positions because we love our patients. We've developed these different relationships with our patients. We love them, we want to stay, we want to help them out, and we feel like if we don't do it, who's going to do it? But we have to also acknowledge the part that we've played in these different situations and what's been our contribution. So what did we do? What didn't we do? We may have a tendency to complain at times and to really put ourselves in victim mode. And feeling like a victim can make us feel helpless and powerless. So I've done that. I know that sometimes I complain, but I did nothing to really get myself out of that victim mode, or I didn't really develop a game plan. I just kept going along with the flow and being unhappy about what everything was going on. So if you guys are movie buffs like me, you already know what this movie is, and it's red pill or blue pill. So it's the Matrix. And the term red pill and blue pill, it refers to our choice between the willingness to learn a potentially unsettling or life-changing truth by taking the red pill, or remaining contented and ignorant with the blue pill. So we have to think of what we're going to choose. What is our choice? We always have a choice every day. If you take the red pill, you have to own up to your personal involvement and needing to make changes to heal and do the work that's involved, because there's work that's involved. Now, if you choose the blue pill, then you're agreeing to just act like you're just gonna put your head down, play the role. You're gonna be an extra in the movie. You're not gonna be the leading actor of your own life, and you're just gonna continue to complain. So when we lack that ownership, we fall into that track of thinking that we don't have a choice. So I hear my colleagues tell me all the time, they won't let me. They won't let me take my time off. They won't let me go to the bathroom. They won't let me take a lunch. We all have a choice. We just have to recognize that we have that choice. So even when we don't actively choose, we're making our choice by default to basically do nothing. So by taking personal responsibility, we really can start to actively work on those decisions and to be involved in that. So values and burnout. At times, we may enter a position and we later recognize that our values are in line with that organization. So sometimes people who really want to help people, they unfortunately go into a job that maybe all they care about, it seems like, is production or money. And so that can really throw people off who would possibly do better in maybe public health or working with the community, because they're at a job that only seems to care about money. That's how they feel. And so they're misaligned with possibly that organization's structure. And if you're misaligned with that, then you're betraying your own belief system and you're constantly feeling stressed and anxious. So as a hygienist, if you're strong on perio and you want to make sure that your patients are being managed and controlled, if you're working somewhere else, somewhere where they're just doing bloody propies all day, you're going to have that stress and anxiety. So it's important that before you even go on an interview, that you write down the values that are important to you. And you see, when you talk to the person who's interviewing you, see how closely they're aligned to one another. Because if they're off, it's going to cause a lot of problems within yourself. And those differences can be something very small, or it can be a fundamental principle that matters a lot to you. So we've talked a lot about burnout. Let's talk about recovery. And really, it can be our mindset. So at times, we can fill our head with so much negativity. So according to the National Science Foundation, an average person has about 12,000 to 80,000 thoughts per day. So of those, around 80% of all of our thoughts can be negative. So we have to work hard to really manifest a positive thought to counteract those negative thoughts. It's almost like playing a video game where you're kind of trying to get away, hit those negative thoughts out of there. And we have to really focus on manifesting positive thoughts daily by taking extreme ownership. So ownership over oneself and one's life, it really allows us to have control over our own life and the mistakes or the choices we make. So we own up to everything, the bad, the good, the ugly. We have made those mistakes, or we have made those accomplishments, and we take ownership of it. And we have to take ownership over our own decisions, which allows us to recognize that where we are is a result of the decisions and the mistakes that we've made. So despite what choices we've made in the past, we can choose to be the architect of our lives once again. What can contribute to this burnout is giving our control to others. So like I said earlier, when we say they won't let me, it's not elementary school anymore. We don't need a hall pass to do different things. We're adults here. So we can take control of ourselves, and if there's something that we feel is negative, or we feel like we're not being allowed to do something, then we have the choice that we can make. We can't allow others to make those decisions for us, because that can really lead us down an opinion that can really lead us down the path that our opinion doesn't matter. So it can really make us feel helpless. And that can lead to depression and apathy over our jobs and our lives in general. And we have to really realize or recognize that everything is possible if we're really to take the long road. So if we step back and we seek different perspectives to see the bigger picture, the big picture is made of massive amount of little pictures, kind of like a Monet. And so those little decisions we make daily, the minutes of our lives, the little thoughts that we allow to control our lives, saying, I can't do that, or they won't let me, or you want to take back that control, stop being afraid, be brave, and be empowered. Now, you can't control what people say or do. You can control your reactions in spite of it or because of it, But by taking that complete ownership of our lives, we're taking our control back, and we can recognize we are the architects of our life and we can change our choices. So you're in control of what you tolerate and what you do not tolerate. You can face your emotions, you can feel your feelings, and then you can get to work. And sometimes what are considered negative emotions, such as frustration or anger, those are motivating factors that empires are built upon. I know that when I get mad, first I clean up the house and then I get to work. And so at times that work is writing an email to a big company or to the president of a huge company, or speaking my mind, speaking up. So if you're frustrated that you're not where you want to be in life, you means that you can control and fix the situation. You don't have to just say, well, I wish I had done this with my life. You can make that change now. So organizations have a choice to make. They want to make sure that they're able to attract and retain employees right now. So in order to do that, you have to continue to raise awareness about mental health. So we have to help people to recognize that they're suffering. Often we are in the thick of it, of burnout, before we actually recognize that that's what's going on. I know that when it came to me, I didn't know what burnout was. I just knew I was unhappy. I was sad. I was crying and everything. I was staring at the wall. But as I started to learn about it, I recognized that that's what has been going on. And often people are experiencing those physical ailments or those mental ailments, and they're just thinking it's one thing. Maybe it's the news, or maybe it's the job, or maybe they didn't eat properly. But when it starts becoming chronic, it usually is some form of burnout, anxiety, or depression. So if we ignore our true feelings, if we just keep plugging along, then those physical and physiological ailments are really gonna start affecting us. So there's no wonder that after the shutdown, when everyone was locked up over time, everyone started to think about what was going on. So many took the time to reevaluate their lives. I know I did. I know I sat back, I reevaluated my life. I made some different changes. I wrote a book. There's a lot of things that happened in that shutdown, and then people recognized that they wanted change for their life. Some people made those changes, and some people are still in the process of doing that. So we have to make sure that we are allies for our colleagues and for our team members as employees or employees. We have to be a source of refuge for everyone, making sure that everyone's getting the help that they need without being judged negatively or feeling that their job is going to be put in jeopardy. So it really upsets me at times when people have reached out to me, or I've seen on a forum where someone is suffering. Someone needs to go get help, and sometimes the help means that they need to go to the hospital for a period of time, or that they tell their employer that they're suffering from depression. And unfortunately, not all employers handle that information well. Some do, and that's great. Some actually have different services, but unfortunately, some have let the employee go. So if offices are doing that, then you're not going to be able to retain the employees you have, because everyone knows that's horrible, and word gets around. So you're not going to be able to attract high quality employees. If you never suffered from burnout or some different aspect of mental anguish, then you still can be an ally to someone who's been experiencing it. Sometimes I see online where someone goes, well, I love my career in industry, I've never dealt with this. And so they can't necessarily empathize, or they're not empathizing with their colleagues who are trying to tell their stories. So we don't want to shut people down. It's great if we've had a perfect career and we've worked at the best offices, or we have the best office and we have a team that stayed with us for 30 years, but it's also great to recognize that not everyone has had those experiences. So allowing others to have that open dialogue and being encouraging and comforting is definitely going to be helpful. And then it's definitely important to help improve the work culture. So allow team members to discuss what they need help with in their jobs. Do they need help with a certain procedure that day? Do they need necessary tools to do their job? Do they feel the schedule's overwhelming? Is their PTO being denied? What is going on? And although we sometimes hear that, we're not supposed to take what's going on at home with us to work, we're at work all day long, all week long. So we have to recognize that everybody is human, and sometimes just take people aside and say, is everything okay? How are you doing? You don't know what's going on. So I've known assistants who have been homeless who are at work, are struggling or barely eating. And this is not just assistants, this is everyone across the board. And so you don't know what people are dealing with. And if you're not asking, obviously you're not trying to get in anyone's business, but you're trying to be a friend or an ally or make sure that that person is okay. It's important to have leadership, so allow teams to share their different frustrations, spend time communicating with one another, make sure that everyone's working reasonable hours. Maybe there can be some flexibility. Maybe instead of just hiring one team member, you hire two with split schedules, because that's what's going to work best for those two people instead of not having anyone work for months. Some people haven't been able to get a hygienist or assistant or office manager for years now. People aren't showing up. Or perhaps if you show more flexible schedule, then you'll be able to accommodate those potential hires and get a placement. And we want to also make sure that everyone's taking breaks throughout the day. So you may need a mental break. You may need to go to the restroom, go eat. Sometimes you may have had a difficult patient. You may need to walk away. So I know even when I was pregnant, usually I'm very diplomatic. I'm very passive at times. I'm very diplomatic. But I got a couple patients who were really trying me. And so I told my manager, who was a friend, who's also a friend, that I need her to come in the room. So I said, I can't do what I normally do. And when I come to you, you just come in the room and dissolve the situation with the patient because I can't handle it. And that true leadership is knowing that we can help one another out in those different situations. And we want to give ourselves grace. Just as we give others grace, we want to give grace to one another. It's important to get help. So if you need help, you go and get the help. And that help can be making sure that you're getting therapy, that you're getting some type of assistance. Maybe you're talking to friends, but it's important to not just think that you're on your own. It's also important to shift the perspective. So our mindset, it's very important to shift our mindset and to think about things differently. So we don't want to always focus on how things have always been. We want to continuously learn and think about how things can be better in the future. So it's important to write down all the possible ways that you can go about solving your problems. And then just remember in school when the teacher gave you the extra piece of paper and you were told to brainstorm. And so you had to write down everything regarding that subject. Do that when it comes to burnout. So self-evaluate. Think about how we can develop our critical thinking skills, activate those brain cells that's going to help us solve those different problems. So we can plan out a certain strategic plan that's going to allow us to feel more in control of the outcome. So for example, let's say we want a raise. We're going to research how to ask for a raise in a way that's going to help reach the positive outcome we desire. Or let's say you're an employer and you want your employee to do a particular task. You're going to possibly see how it's best to come to that different employer based upon their personality. Maybe they did some type of DISC assessment prior to being hired from you. So you would know how to approach them to get the desired result that you want. And then we have to always keep in mind that we need to learn how to ask for things at the appropriate time. So you don't just barge into the doctor's office and say, I need a raise or I need a vacation. You want to actually kind of have some emotional intelligence and try to see what they're doing as well, how their day is going. So instead of complaining about different things, we have to be solution oriented and really look for solutions to the problems that will enable us to take our control back. And so a manager once told me at a job that I had that if you keep doing what you're doing, you're going to keep getting what you're getting. And so we have to drop negative thinking like a bad habit and really retrain our mindset so that we can have that ownership of ourselves and our lives. It's not making ourselves a victim, it's really empowering ourselves so we can take back our lives and not deal with burnout for such a prolonged period of time. We have to be willing to make changes despite how uncomfortable those changes are initially. Sometimes it's uncomfortable conversations. I know that I don't always like uncomfortable conversations. And I know a lot of my colleagues, instead of having an uncomfortable conversation and communicating their needs with an employer, or employer communicating what's going on in their minds with their team, people will just quit. So they would just leave, they'll just quit. maybe the doctor won't have those uncomfortable conversations, and so the employees may actually feel like they're not being heard or bad behavior is allowed to continue. So the way we think can become a habit, and if we constantly think negatively, then that becomes a habit. So over time, we may be used to blaming different external factors over our circumstances. We may have given up our control willingly. We may be used to blaming others for what's going on for us, and that can really put us in victim mode. It's not to say that people aren't doing stuff to us. Like I've said, I have been bullied. I was treated wrong. I dealt with discrimination, microaggressions, gaslighting, all the different things. It's not to say that it was my fault, but sometimes the way I responded allowed it to continue. So by evaluating our situations, we can really make changes in how we respond to that negative behavior, and we can change the story of our lives. I always say it's important to document. So when we document different things, we're documenting the good, the bad, the ugly, just like we document our notes at work. If we document daily what's going on at work in our own personal journals at home, taking out the feelings out of it and just saying exactly what happens, it serves as a record. At times, you may need that record in case you are in a hostile work environment and you need to bring that to the attention of management or HR or perhaps legal at times, unfortunately, because things are happening. But it also serves as good documentation so that you know that what's happening to you is actually happening. Because at times when we're starting to have this mental anguish, we can almost feel like we're going crazy, or we can be a victim of gaslighting. And people may say that what happened didn't actually happen. But if we document it, then we know that that's what happened. We learned in school, if it's not written down, it didn't happen. So it's important to have documentation. And in boundaries, that's something I'm constantly working on. That's because boundaries are difficult for us at times, especially if we're people pleasers or if we're used to helping the community. And a boundary can simply be saying no. So no is a complete sentence and it doesn't need further explanation. Instead of automatically saying yes, we want to evaluate if that's something that we actually want to do. We want to think about how us saying yes is going to impact our family, our health, our lives, and our mental state. And by continuing to doing this hard work, it's going to really help us with the emotional intelligence that we need. So we are often heart-centered individuals as healthcare providers, but we have to also rely on our brain and make sure we're making the best decisions for ourselves. One of the ways that I was able to really help recover from burnout was getting more involved. So getting involved with different organizations. Yes, I'm a hygienist. So these are all mainly hygiene organizations. Some of these are dental organizations as well, or anyone can join. But get involved in your professional organization. So whatever you are, a dentist, a hygienist, assistant, office manager, there's different things that you can get involved in and not be left out. Get involved in different Facebook groups. So find Facebook groups that are positive for you, where you can talk about what's going on. A lot of times there's an anonymous button there. So if you feel like you don't want everyone to maybe know your business, or you know some different people in the group and you don't want them to know who you are, you can just anonymously post something or ask the owner of the group to post something for you. Go to different conventions and meetings. So I didn't do that for most of my career, and now I'm going to all the different places. I'll be at the ADHA giving a course in 2 weeks, and going to a lot of different places all over the country. But by doing that, you are stepping out, you're meeting people, you're learning about the latest and greatest in your industry, and you're not just staying closeted. Exercise is always a big thing that helps us with our mental health. It can keep our stress down, and it can help us to really get those different endorphins and help with immunity boosters. So it's something that often we neglect when we aren't feeling the best, but it's something that can really help us get back to feeling like ourselves. And then eating properly, self-care is something that we shouldn't just reserve for sometimes. We know that if we're always eating junk food, then that's going to cause problems. And so if we're always negative, that's going to cause problems because that's junk food for our minds. But every day we want to have some type of self-care for ourselves that's going to help prevent the burnout over time. So we want to make sure that we're getting enough sleep, we're eating a nutritious diet, and we're practicing the good things for ourselves. And focusing on ourselves is important. So focus on you, your mental health, your spiritual health, You want to focus on your well-being. So movie buff again, The Karate Kid, and this is the one with Jaden Smith when he said, focus, your focus needs more focus, or actually I think that's what his mentor told him. So we need to constantly make sure that we're focusing on the right things. At times we're not focusing on proper things, and that can really set us off balance. Volunteering is a big thing that can really help us to not be thinking about ourselves so much. A lot of times when we're helping others, and that can be draining, but if we're choosing something, it's something that we love, then that can really help us out, and to not just think about that problem at that time. So there's so many different ways that you can volunteer in your community. Some people are on mission trips right now overseas. So just find different things that are gonna make you passionate. And then surround yourself with positive people. So if you're surrounded by positive people, then you're going to become more positive, and it's going to help you focus on your goals and become more positive yourself, get energized and motivated and inspired, because those positive people are always trying to work towards improving themselves, and they're going to encourage you to be the best that you can, and spending time with them is going to increase your energy and lift your spirit and your joy. So I know that the more I spent time with people who were doing the things that I wanted to do, the better off I was. And so I started seeking out those different connections. So I have a quote from author John Donne. I put this in my book. It says, "No man is an island." So we all need those different connections. We all need help. And at times, as people pleasers or healthcare providers, we help everybody else, but we reject the help that we need. When we seek out those connections, we have to recognize that networking is a skill. So when we're doing it, we are building genuine relationships with people. We're not just trying to network to see what we can get from other people, how they can help our career, or how we can leverage that contact. We are making sure that we're actually developing a relationship. And we can do that by attending different conventions and conferences, like I talked about. That's very important to do. And there's so many out there. Just find one that resonates with you. And so these are some of, they said I can use their pictures. So these are some of the people in my network. You may recognize them. Some may be on here today. Often my buddies support me and I support them with their events. And this is a mixture of dental professionals who inspire me to do all the things that I'm doing now and even more. And some of them are speakers, they're authors, they're podcasters, inventors, they're entrepreneurs. And so I actually signed up for an organization that's going to do a mentorship program shortly and everything, just so I can learn even more. And here's another slide. These are some more of my favorite people and all that they're doing. So when you surround yourself with positive people, you're going to go through the moon as well. You're going to be inspired. Your career is going to blossom because they're just going to push you forward. And then remember who you are. So that's the Lion King. You have to remember who you are and who are you. So you're not just a hygienist or a dentist or an assistant or office manager or whatever you are, whatever your profession is. You're not just some cog in the wheel. You have to think about your roles. What do you have? What are you doing? What other things are you doing? So as an assignment, write down your different roles and what you're grateful for. Write down what you love about your profession. Write down what you love about coming to different events like this, doing these webinars, what you may have learned in this course. You can always give me feedback. I welcome good and bad feedback and everything. So do that self-evaluation and internal work, and that's going to help us to manage and recover from our burnout and really transition into a braver version of ourselves. And so we have to put in that hard work. It's not easy. We have to put in the work. So this is me. I filled out my assignment. This is all the things that I am. I am more than one thing, and we can choose how we see ourselves in our lives. And at times, we often focus on sad parts of our lives, or we may think about the past. We may feel sad or anxious. We don't sometimes focus on what we should be grateful for. And that is a lot of different things. So this is a pictorial collage that shows you the clips of who I am. I am a mother, I'm a wife, I'm a dental hygienist, an author, a public speaker. I love traveling, and there's so much that I love to do, and I'm human. So some days I don't recognize all these different things, and I have to remind myself, or I have to be reminded. And that's because we all have different stressors. We all have this big brain in our head that is telling us opposite things, and we're always fighting against it. So in closing, we have to keep moving forward. We have to open new doors and do all the new things, because when we're curious, and curiosity keeps leading us down new paths. So often we're afraid to go through those doors of opportunity. We're afraid to turn those doorknobs because we keep looking at what's behind us. Often people will stay in different positions or things that no longer serve them because they're afraid of what the future holds. But if we turn that doorknob and step out into the future, into different environments, we will feel empowered and we will feel confident in our abilities. And so we have to really just stop saying yes. And when I started saying yes, I started getting all the wonderful opportunities, more than my heart could even think of. And that's what's important. So to contact me, as was spoken about earlier, you can either email me at sherellasmiles.com, or you can go to my link, bit.ly Burnout Dental Hygienist. I have my Facebook group. I have you can catch me on Facebook, and I have my Instagram as well. So thank you so much, Elevate, for allowing me to give this webinar for everyone.
Well, thank you so much, Carrie. That was a wonderful webinar. And I know you mentioned towards the end there, just kind of surrounding yourself with positive people and seeing your picture collage as well as the other dental professionals that you had a picture collage, just seeing all their smiling faces, that positivity just kind of is going to end my night on a positive note. So I appreciate you sharing all that and just the message that you shared with us tonight. We did have some questions come in, so we'll go ahead and ask you a couple of questions here with the time that we have left. The first
Sure.
one was, what impact has the reported increase in dental group practices, both small and large, had on this type of burnout issue?
Well, unfortunately, some things have gotten better and some things have gotten worse. So because of the shortage, a number of offices are working hard to improve their work culture, because they have recognized that just having sign-on bonuses and throwing money at the situation is not necessarily having them being able to attract employees. So they're recognizing now that they need to really try to tell people about how the work culture is, how they treat their employees, and that's what's getting people to come to their different offices, because word goes around. Even though dentistry is small, we are interconnected, especially with the multimedia today, and we will tell one another if that's a good place to be at or not. So they're really getting the message that we have to work on making sure that the work culture is good and making sure that we take care of one another's mental health.
Great, thank you. Have you heard of if any of these larger organizations offer any kind of employee assistance programs for these types of issues?
Yes, actually, I'm in contact with some large DSOs, so I've been working with them and talking to them about improving their work culture. I've worked for some large organizations throughout my career, and I really like some of the different aspects that they have. But at times, we see on like Indeed.com or Glassdoor.com that they don't always have the best reviews. So some are actively trying to work on the work culture within their organizations and making sure that they have mental health services available for their employees. And that may be that employees just have to contact their different managers and tell them what's going on and put in the necessary paperwork so that they can handle different situations. So things are changing for the better for the most part. So, you know, it really depends on the different organizations, but I see that they're trying.
That's great to hear. And then I know you mentioned getting involved with professional organizations like ADHA and others. Do you know if any of the professional organizations do offer resources for chronic workplace stress?
I know that they're actively trying. So I just finished taping. It actually came out today with the ADHA podcast. And so we talked about burnout as an issue and mental health problem. And they're going to be having different presentations concerning that, because there's different journals that are coming out where they've been addressing it. So, and I know different colleagues who are in graduate school have been doing a lot of different studies concerning bullying and burnout and microaggressions and all the different things aspecting mental health. And I am in contact with a lot of different dentists, and they are studying this as well. Many of them are burnout coaches as well, and they are trying to fix the problem. And so even if you go on ADA website, you can find different articles concerning mental health. So because there's so much mental illness in the industry and sometimes suicide, it's definitely something that the organizations are trying to work on. But we have to speak up as well and get the help that is needed. We can't just rely upon others.
Absolutely. Do you know if these issues are covered by medical insurance plans?
It all just depends. So we know that medical insurance is a big topic in the country that never seems to get solved, unfortunately. And so some people have insurance, some people don't. That's a real problem with a number of hygienists and different dental professionals. They may not have insurance, especially if they work at private offices. So they may not have the best insurances. But there's different things that they can get at times. There's telehealth that can help them with any type of therapy that they need. There's reduced programs, and usually within your local community, there's usually some type of hotline like 411 that you can call to see if they have any different counseling available. So even if people don't have medical insurance, there's different options out there and ways for them to try to get the help they need.
Right. Okay, what are your recommendations if an employer is not receptive to ways to improve prevention of burnout?
Well, at times it really depends on that employee situation because there's different variables. So I don't tell anyone just to quit your job. Usually I try not to because I don't want to get sued. However, it's important for the employee to weigh what their options is to see if they can work there still or if they need to transition. So with me, I tried the longest to work at a potential job that a past job that I liked, but it just didn't work out. And I knew for my mental sanity, I needed to leave. And so that's my choice. So the employee has the choice to stay to see if it will improve, if more communication is needed, or to try to position themselves at another job. And sometimes, until they can do that, sometimes people in a rural situations or, there's not a shortage where they live and everything. And so they have to really work on their mindset and almost put themselves in a bubble. Like I like Sherlock Holmes. And so he talks about his mind palace. So you have to almost, just get zen in order to deal with that situation until you're able to make a better move. So it's a lot of different variables there.
Sure. All right, we're going to wrap it up here with our last question. What are some good opening questions or statements to have with employers to discuss burnout?
Well, it's hard for some people because they usually are feeling afraid. But if they feel that they can come to their employer or they're going to be brave and do it, then they should just, set up a meeting and say that I'm really struggling with the burnout that I'm feeling and explain if it's due to the job, explain what is potentially contributing to the burnout. So they can say that I'm overwhelmed by seeing so many patients a day or having to see patients every 45 minutes or every 30 minutes. I don't feel like I'm giving the care I need to my patient, and it's really affecting me as well as my body. So they can discuss what is causing the burnout and discuss what changes they would like the employer to make. So my manager told me that what she learned from her husband was not to always bring he taught not their situation, but not to always bring complaints to an employer. You want to bring solutions. So don't just say, I don't like this, I don't like this, I'm not getting enough instruments. What are the solutions? So if you need instruments, maybe have researched what is on sale or what are different programs where you can get what you need, or research, already know how to get a raise. So you want to be solution oriented. So a lot of times employers, if you just come and you have complaints, they kind of get taken aback with that. So if you can help provide solutions, then that can be helpful. And if they're not receptive to any of that, then like I said, you have a choice to make. You can take back the control and you can decide what you want to do. What's your next step after that?
Awesome. Well, thank you so much. And thank you so much for just a wonderful presentation this evening. And we thank all of you for joining and spending your Tuesday evening with us. So to our guests, your CE certificate will be emailed automatically within an hour or two. So make sure you check your spam folder. And then be sure to follow us on Facebook and Instagram for links to new free CE events. The link that you see on the screen will give you access to our archived webinars, including this evening's webinar, which should be accessible in just a few short weeks. So please share this link with your staff and colleagues. And finally, on our Elevate Oral Care website, you will find buttons to request an informative CE-eligible staff meeting for your office. Education on the latest evidence in oral health prevention is what we do, and we would be honored to meet with you and your team and help you best serve your patients. So thank you, everyone. Stay safe. Have a wonderful rest of the week, and we hope to see you on our next Elevating Care webinar.